starting. Does that mean it started or it started?
I think it has started. It's saying we're live.
We're live from the internet.
Woo!
Hi, everyone. Woohoo! We're doing this again. We just keep trucking along, don't we?
Trekking along. I
Trekking
see what
along.
you did.
We're just trekking along. So, yeah, welcome, everyone. It's October 10th, 2017, and we have now seen episode 4 of Star Trek Discovery, which is my favorite title so far in the Discovery series. The Butcher's Knife cares not for the lamb's cry. Isn't that exciting? I think, Justin, you like that title, right?
I love that title, and it's the second longest title in all of Star Trek, which is pretty awesome. So
yes,
I like that a lot.
I think I saw you tweet that. That's why I mentioned it. Well, anyway, first of all, let's do introductions. I'm Bruce Gibson here on Live from the Edge, and Brandi is my co-host here with me. How are you doing?
I am great because I'm not sick with a cold anymore. So yeah.
So you had a cold. You got a cold last week from doing the show.
No, I was getting sick while doing the show. So if that explains any erratic behavior that anyone noticed, so be it. But the next morning I woke up terribly, terribly ill. So it was coming on gradually, and then it kind of hit me overnight. And now I'm feeling much better, except for still a lot of sinus crap. But
that's sinus crap.
Yeah.
See, this is why people need to watch the live show to see the hand movement at the sinuses.
Yes, because I'm constantly using my hands.
Well, we have a guest co-host like we've had the last couple weeks, and this one is Justin Oser. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. So happy to be talking Star Trek Discovery and to be doing it live. It's exciting. I've never done a live podcast before, lots of recorded ones, but it's exciting to do a live one and to talk about this episode tonight.
Well, you know, Justin, you can't mess up because then we can't go back and edit it because
I know. Yeah, what people don't know who don't do podcasts, you can't go in and say, edit that out, or just, restart what you were saying. So yeah, it's everything that I say is going to have to be better than usual, I guess.
Better.
Well, then you'll be doing better than us. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're just flying by the seat of our pants. Let's face it.
We are.
And we're really good at it.
Yeah, we fly by spore drive too.
Well, there's spores everywhere.
There are. Well, we want to thank everyone who's tuning in live and for joining us. And so because we're live, we want you to participate with us. And the way to do that is 3 ways. You can send us a tweet, and you can send it to @TrekFM on Twitter. And make sure you use the hashtag #LiveTheEdge. That's hashtag #LiveTheEdge. And we may read your questions or comments here on the show. So we want this to be very interactive. And then also, if you're in the Babel Conference on Facebook, we have a post of the show there. You can put your comments in there. So we'll be watching that. And also, because the live feed is on YouTube, there is a chat next to the video that you're watching now. So you can also participate in the chat. So that's a lot of fun. So we'll be watching you no matter where you are. And then we're going to read what you have to say. Well, I'm not going to say we're going to read everything everybody's saying, but we're going to read some of it. So again, call us out on stuff, ask us questions, ask Justin how his day's doing, whatever you want to do. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, I've actually already had a comment from Trek 001 saying, you had a cold? Have you tried Pulaski's chicken soup? No, I haven't. But now I wish I had. And maybe it would have shortened the duration. So I wish I had known. Where were you a week ago? I didn't know I was sick then. It's okay.
Can you get Pulaski's chicken soup at the store, or does she have to make it homemade for you?
I'm going to guess that it has to be homemade because that's the best chicken soup, right? Is the kind that's homemade. You don't think so?
Well, no, I think so.
Oh,
I do think so.
Okay.
But then with Pulaski, I don't know. Who knows?
I feel like we're recording an episode of Earl Grey here. The TNG stuff.
Why is that? Because we're off topic now?
Oh, apparently Trek 001 was on Risa when I was talking. Well, when I had a cold, but that's okay because honestly, Risa, it seems like someone's always getting kidnapped to or from or at Risa. So I'm not a big fan, really.
Do you think we'll see Risa in Discovery?
I hope not.
No, probably not.
I really don't think that's appropriate.
Or
I don't
maybe
think
we'll
it's
see
necessary.
Pulaski. This is a live episode of Earl Grey, and this whole episode's about Pulaski.
She
No.
wouldn't have been born yet.
That's true. Well, maybe she was. She's just very, very old by the TNG. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about episode 4 of Star Trek Discovery. The Butcher's Knife cares not for the lamb's cry. I like saying that. It's just so much fun. And so this episode aired October 9th in the United States and Canada, and then today, October 10th, everywhere else in the world on Netflix.
Bruce,
So,
it's still October 9th today.
where?
No.
On
No, it's October
Today-
10th
No,
everywhere.
you're right. Today is October 9th. Sorry.
No, October 9th. What is this?
So the episode released on the 8th. Today is the 9th. I'm so confused.
That's okay.
But by
No,
the
It's,
time
it's
you're talking-
because
fabulous,
it's
sorry.
because you were on the ship. The saucer was rotating around. It spun around. It got you a little disoriented, right?
Well, okay. I'm glad you said that because let me just say, because we're reviewing the episode, there's going to be spoilers, and we're going to start that off right away. So I want to know from you guys. Yes, the ship, it spins around on its spore drive. What did you think of that?
Oh, I love that. I loved seeing it. You know, I don't think I had gotten a spoiler yet for why the outside of the ship kind of it has this inner ring and this space and little spokes and an outer ring, and this explains it, why it kind of spins around. How that has to do with spores, I don't know yet, but I just loved it, and it was just a beautiful thing to see, and then to see it kind of corkscrewing around and darting off. I absolutely love that part.
Well, yeah, the thing is, when it's on the streaming service, I can't slow it down. I can't do slow-mo because is it really, I mean, I know the hull's spinning, but then when it's about to go off, is it really twisting and turning like it looked like it was doing? Or is that just some weird visual effect?
I don't know. I took it to be that it's kind of twisting, that the outer part of the saucer is spinning around, and then when it gets to a certain point, it allows it to like corkscrew around an axis. That's what it looked like to me, but no, I haven't been able to slow it down to see for sure. But it looked cool nonetheless.
It did look cool. What'd you think, Brandi?
At that point in the episode, I went, take that, all you people who were complaining about the design of the saucer section. It has a purpose. So I actually was really excited by that. It looked really fabulous. And the whole corkscrewing thing, I'm just kind of like, yeah, well, that's quantum stuff. I'm just going to write it off to quantum stuff. So I don't understand everything about it. I don't necessarily need to understand everything about it right now. But it seems like they are not, I don't think they're wasting anything. I don't think they're doing anything just for the sake of doing it. So I'm looking forward to learning more about how that spinning saucer ring works and why.
I liked it. I was the same way. I had a reaction verbally where I was like, "Oh, cool, ooh," or whatever I was saying. It was just interesting, but at the same time, then I thought about it. It was like, gosh, this show really is going in different directions that we've never seen in Star Trek. I mean, every episode that comes up, I'm like, oh, well, that's different. And at the same time, we've gotten so many weird different things that we haven't seen before that it's starting to feel. It's still Star Trek, but it feels so weird. It's different that sometimes it doesn't feel like Star Trek. Does that make sense? Or is that just me?
I think it makes some sense. I mean, I have to say, for me, I really love the first 2 episodes. I had some issues with the third one, which kind of in some ways didn't feel as much Star Trek, and this felt like a return to that. So I think it's natural to think about that because it's something new, it's doing something different. But I do see it as within the framework of Star Trek, and that it's also kind of examining this corner of the Star Trek universe, because I don't think it's representative at all of what's going on in the entire Federation at that point or on every ship. I mean, they say Discovery, I think, is the only one that has this spore drive and that is doing these things. And Pike's Enterprise is out there doing something different with some different technologies. So I think this is like a little corner of that universe. And in that way, it makes even more sense to me because it's not like that everywhere. I don't think in any way.
No, this is unique to Discovery. I did pick that up, that this is the only ship in the Federation that can do this. And that's why they're on their own, and wherever they spore to, Is that they
Yeah,
spore something?
if you can warp somewhere, you can spore somewhere, right?
Right, right, not
Yeah.
spore
Well-
factor 4.
I love that. I want to see that. But to be fair, the Glen is constructed pretty much identically as Discovery. So until they destroyed it, it too was capable of having a spore drive. In fact, they were testing the spore
Right.
drive when the massive accident happened. So at least that's what I'm assuming, because the tardigrade was in the chamber in engineering and busted out of engineering when this accident happened. And yeah, then wackiness ensues. We know what happened after that, but yeah, it seems like the ships were designed almost identically. In fact, they were sequential, because the Glen was 1030 and Discovery's 1031. So they were literally right after each other.
I didn't pick up on
I didn't
that.
see the registry number of the Glen. Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
I'm a nerd.
good. I mean, I think it makes sense. It seems like there was Stamets and Strahl, and there were these two scientists who were working on it. So it made sense to have two ships and have two separate ways of doing it. So yeah, I think they just kind of rolled the two off the assembly line, or however they're doing it at that point together. Yeah.
Yep, agree. And honestly, I love having a different direction in Star Trek, because I know that people are comfortable with what they know and they want everything to be comfortable because they know it. But I'm one of those people that enjoys exploring new things. And that's what we're doing. Because really, when you think about it, all of the Star Trek episodes, series rather, were focusing on one ship or one space station, or I accidentally activated Siri. Sorry, Siri. We are looking in each of those series at only one part of Starfleet, one part of the quadrant. And so Discovery is no different in that, but it's telling a much different story than what we have seen before. And quite frankly, I love it.
Yeah, and especially the fact that obviously these spores aren't going to work well, because we never see those again in the Federation. I mean, if the spore technology worked really well, then Voyager would not have been stranded in the Delta Quadrant.
Exactly, and I think we're already seeing the reason why, because that poor old tardigrade was not well after that big jump, which we'll talk about the big jump in a bit. But and Michael knew it. In fact, when they were activating the spore drive the second time, and she knew it was in pain, and she was horrified. You could see it in her eyes. And I don't think that even with her ability to sometimes detach from her emotions, I don't think that she can let this creature be tortured. It's a sentient life form, you know?
Yes. We want to touch on the creature here in a moment. The YouTube chat, we have Trek 001. And by the way, he points out it is October 10th in the UK right now. So I guess I was kind of right when I said that.
Yes, and Australia,
yes.
New Zealand,
Yes,
etc.
yes.
And
True,
so
true.
Trek 001 also says, why does the Discovery, why is it NCC and not an NX prefix, since it is a prototype ship? That's a good question. It really should be an NX.
I don't know. I mean, the thing about NX, though, is, in Enterprise, we see the NX-01, but that's because it's an NX class. I don't think it's because it's an experimental ship at that point. And for the NX designation was the first, as far as when things aired, was the first time that we saw that designation with the Excelsior. Was that first place?
Excelsior in Star Trek 3, right.
In Star Trek
NX
3.
2000, yeah.
Right. And that's NX 2000, but that's the first one we see, which takes place some decades after this. So, I mean, you could say maybe they don't have that kind of designation for an experimental ship yet, but it's a good question I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it either, but it definitely makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't, maybe I don't know. I don't know. We can theorize all day on that one. Maybe it's like a different area of Starfleet that builds NX ships versus NCC. I don't know.
And we may get an explanation sometime. I mean, it's just 4 episodes in, right? And what I was thinking about today is we're 4 episodes in, and I was thinking about the first 4 episodes of TNG, which were Encounter at Farpoint, The Naked Now, Code of Honor, and The Last Outpost, some of which are not very good. So, I mean, I think that, early on, it's hard to get a handle on what the whole feel of the show will be, but I think they're really starting out, strong, and they know what direction that they're going in, which is great.
Yeah, and maybe some of this will be answered in a novel too. But Sam Greenwood in the chat also says this is not a prototype ship, but a prototype engine. So maybe that's the difference. I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting theory.
Could be, I must say.
Good point. Good point.
Also, well, let's see. We wanted to talk about Kitty Kitty.
Ripper.
Is that the next thing?
Ripper.
I still like Kitty Kitty as the name, but
yeah, Ripper's not really appropriate either because it's not a predator. So, I mean, if it was just really aggressive, but obviously it only gets aggressive when it's defending itself, and Michael proved that.
Yeah. Now, is it Commander Landry or Landrew?
Landry.
Okay, because at certain times it sounded like they would say Landrew, and I thought it was Landry.
It's Landry.
It is Landry. But.
Yep. So, yeah. Is anybody upset about her death?
Do you want me to say what I really feel about Landry?
Yep.
Yes.
I do.
No, lie to us, Justin. Lie to the truth.
We can handle the truth.
So seeing her in the 3rd episode and in this episode, it seems like she's a pretty one-dimensional character. It's just all about doing everything that she can for Lorca and the war effort, no matter how bad of an idea it might be. And, letting this tardigrade out and trying to basically kill it and chop off part of it is a terrible idea. I think she's a really bad security officer for that. And because they hadn't really drawn out the character too much, her death definitely didn't affect me as much as some of the other characters like Georgiou, for example. So yeah, I was okay with it. I know other people have really liked the character, were sad to see her go, but that one didn't affect me as much because I don't think they had put as much into that character as they have the other ones.
I agree because, this is what my husband Dave said. Because Commander Landry herself says that she, her main job is strategy and tactics. But if that's true, she has proficiency in neither of those things. To take a gun and whatever else she had, I don't even remember what it was, something small and bladed, and just let that thing out. I mean, come on. And it's interesting to think about how everybody's like, we don't care how it behaves. Well, you should. Even if you're trying to weaponize something, when you know its behavior, you know what to think about it. You know how it thinks. You know what it reacts to. That is the first thing you should learn about any kind of alien life form, is how it behaves. Even if you're trying to weaponize it like Lorca wants. That's just skipping to trying to find out how to weaponize it. It doesn't work that way. There's a process to it.
No, you should have been on the ship. You should have been helping Burnham convince Landry not to do that.
I totally would have. I would have punched her in the throat. That's what I would have done.
Ooh, that's too violent for Starfleet.
No, it's not.
I have a question. So that implement she takes out, the little bladed curved thing, was that like what you see in Enterprise, the Andorian like ice tool that you see Shran and Archer fighting with? I couldn't quite tell, but it kind of looked like that.
It may have been. I don't know.
It very well may have been. I would have to go back and compare.
Because she was talking about lopping off, a part of it, and that's kind of what Archer does to one of Shran's antennas. So,
well, that's true. That's true. So you may be right. Good call. I think you're right.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd have to look at it again because she doesn't get a chance to use it. She takes out the gun and the curved blade, and then just sets the blade aside and tries to shoot it, and doesn't work out. So she doesn't even get to use the blade.
Yeah.
Well, it seems in our chat that Landry's death was something that was welcome and surprising. to, to other people in the chat.
Yeah, I was
All right.
actually surprised as well. I thought, oh, well, they'll just take her into sick bay and fix her up. And oh, no,
Oh, no, little shake of the head. She's dead.
she's dead.
Oh, I was
And-
shocked too, because I heard, I don't remember where, if it was after Trek or on a podcast or something, but someone said, oh, you know, if you didn't like her in episode 3, she's a very good actress. She's going to do more with the character. You'll learn more about her. And then they killed her. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Well, and the funny thing is that the actress who plays her, I know she's a great actress. I've seen her in other things. And I feel like she wasn't given enough to do with this role. Even if it's somebody you're only going to have for a couple of episodes, just still establish that character or give us something to hold on to. Because I found her pretty much repulsive in almost every way as far as her attitude towards people in general and Michael especially. So I just, it was one of those things where I'm just like, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya.
And it's a good thing that they didn't have that creature on the Enterprise D, because Pulaski would have probably been dead by now.
If certain people had had their way.
But it feels like they're doing these things with certain characters, with Burnham and Saru and Lorca and the tardigrade and Tilly and the Klingons and all this stuff. I don't think there was room enough to develop Landry. It seems like, and all the plot points they wanted to do, it just seemed like that got kind of squeezed a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that, but to make your chief of security be so reckless, I think was a mistake. But at the same time, she was interpreting Lorca's orders the way she saw fit, and she obviously thought it was the right thing to do. Well, joke's on her, I guess.
Yeah, but you're right. She's carrying out Lorca's orders, and I think that's what he wanted, but he doesn't want anybody to be stupid when doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the only thing that got done was she got killed, so that didn't help.
Nope, it sure did not help. But
no, it didn't. So Trek 001 says maybe Landry is Pulaski's great-great-great-great-grandmother. Okay, so anyway, we'll move on. Well, speaking of death, we lost one of our favorite captains that we've only known for a short time, Captain Giorgio, and a bit about her and learn about her death. I don't know, this is kind of hard to swallow when I think about this. If you know where I'm going, we have Renee on Trek on Twitter tweeted us at Trek FM saying, did the Klingons eat Giorgio out of desperation, or was it a ritual?
I'm going to go with desperation, because I don't think that's their normal behavior. And in their conversation, it seemed like it was something that they did because they were starving and not necessarily because they wanted to eat a human. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, definitely one of the most gruesome images. I'm glad they didn't show anything of that.
Oh, it's perfect that they didn't show anything, because our imaginations are far worse than anything they could have put on screen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I almost had a picture of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with the monkey brains, the chilled monkey brains. Maybe something like that, or Hannibal or something. Anyway, I shouldn't probably even go there right now. But what was nice was her will.
Yeah.
Burnham didn't want to open her last will and testament, so she shoves the unit under her bed. And then we get later in the episode, and Tilly's like, well, you're so strong and you've faced so many terrible things. I would think you'd be able to handle this. And it was nice to see Captain Giorgio's image, her message to Burnham. It was bringing her back to the show in a sense.
Yes, and I still think we're going to see more flashbacks in the future, because how could they not? I mean, Michelle Yeoh is she's perfect in every way. And so I don't think, my feeling is that we will see more of her in flashbacks in future episodes. I've said that before, and I'm doubling down on it.
Yeah, I hope so, because I really love the Giorgio character, and Michelle Yeoh is so great. And it was it was great to see her even as, you know, a hologram in this will at the end of the episode. I just love the last part that she says, you know, take good care of yourself, but most importantly, take good care of those under your care. Amazing. I love that so much, and it was so well written what she was saying, and I definitely hope we get, you know, flashbacks or some other way that she can be involved, because she was only really in there for a couple episodes, but she's one of my favorite Star Trek characters. I just love how she was portrayed and everything that she did, really.
Isn't that amazing? She's one of your favorite Star Trek characters, and she was only in 2 episodes. That says a lot right there.
I think it says a lot for the performance, and it's one of the reasons why I really love the first 2 episodes a lot. But yeah, I mean, she made this big impact in those couple of episodes for me, and I think for a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter say that they love her. She's their favorite captain and all this stuff in a couple of episodes. That's quite an impression.
Yeah, it is. Maybe a spinoff. Sam Greenwood in the chat mentions maybe it's time for a spinoff.
I'd love that, or at least a bunch more Shenzhou novels like David Mack did recently.
Well, I think that the bridge set of the Shenzhou is still in the studio, from what I've heard. So maybe they can still use that, and maybe it's there for flashbacks. But still, if it's there, maybe they could do a spinoff series or mini movie of some type or whatever for CBS All Access.
Do you mean have a prequel to the prequel?
I think
wouldn't that be Enterprise?
Because basically showing stuff on the Shinzo would be a prequel to Discovery, which is a prequel to the original series.
Yes.
So, it's like nesting dolls. It's those Russian nesting dolls. A prequel within a prequel within a prequel.
But it's in our future. So it's weird. How can it be a prequel if it's not even happened yet?
Because it's a prequel to events that we have witnessed in the future, and I could explain more with quantum mechanics, but then we'd be here all night.
Well, if you can explain that, we should do a different show later.
Yes, quantum realities. That's a fun topic.
Yes,
I mean, I'm not being facetious. It's a fun topic for me, but it makes other people's brains melt.
I like it. Quantum stuff is really, really weird.
I know. That's why it's so much fun. You're like, this cannot be real.
It's much weird. Like what happens at the quantum level is much weirder than anything you could ever put in a Star Trek episode. It really is. But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, I want to remind people again, if you want to send us a tweet, send it at Trek FM using the hashtag #LiveTheEdge, or you can join us in our YouTube chat, which seems to be pretty active right now. So there's a lot of conversation going on. Maybe it's more interesting than what we're saying. I don't know. So what about Klingons? Now, you know, Vok, we didn't get to really talk about on the live show 2 weeks ago.
We did not.
So this is our chance to do that because he's returned, and things are really stepping up for him.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We finally get back to the Klingons in this episode. And I don't know why I'm saying finally, because there was really only 1 episode without them. And we see what's happened with the sarcophagus ship in this interim. And I did not expect them to be sitting there dead in space in the battlefield. That is just not what I expected at all. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Ship would pick them up or something, but
you would think so. It's like they all came together for this fight, and then they all went their separate ways and just left.
But you know what?
Behind who started it all.
Yeah. I mean, now that I think of it, maybe it's kind of like this is where Takuvma was killed, and it's like a holy site that they need to watch over, and they also want to see what they can do to put the ship back together and get the cloaking technology. I guess it could make sense, but it did strike me as a little strange that they were still sitting there for months and months.
Well, it makes me wonder, did the houses just abandon them, that they just didn't believe in him anymore? That Takuvma has died?
That's basically it. Is they're just like, oh, well, you guys succeeded and all, but, you know, we're not going to stick around to help you or anything because the battle's over.
And they had also, you know, pledged their loyalty to Takuvma, who's now dead. So I don't know how things would work in that Klingon culture, but
well, Takuvma did name Voq as his successor.
Yeah.
So what's the big problem there? If they were so fastidious about being loyal to Takuvma, then why not transfer that same loyalty to Vogue.
Well, Cole does for a while, but I don't know what's happened in the interim in like the last 6 months that they're just letting him sit there. Who knows? Maybe we'll get an explanation of it. But
yeah, I thought that was rude to just leave him there.
But I really loved seeing the Klingons in this episode. I know some people have had some issues with it, but like every minute that there are Klingons on screen speaking Klingon, I'm just like riveted to it. I love it in so many ways. And I have to say, we talked about Voku's, supposed to be the new leader, but the one who really made an impression on me is Laurel, played by Mary Chief. Like what she was doing, like in her acting and especially in her eyes were like so expressive of what was going on in her mind and what she wanted to say more than just her words. I was just amazed by all of that. I was like, wow, this is some incredible stuff here that she's doing. And she only had a little role before. It was much bigger in this episode. And I hope we see a lot more of her.
Oh, I think we will, especially considering how the episode ended.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Laurel, oh yeah. I was sitting through every scene with her in it and I was just going, you go, girl, you go. Yes, yes. And even when she appeared to turn against Vogue, I knew that she was planning something else. I could see it in her eyes.
Well, yeah, and those eyes, they seem to insinuate that there may be some love interest between the two, but is she
I saw that.
Vogue? Is she playing it? Does she really like him, or is she playing him to use him as her means to get power later?
It's hard to tell.
If she was using him, then she would not have left Cole and transported onto the Shinzo with Vogue, who was left there to die. So yeah, my opinion is that she really does have a thing for him, and if he's not stupid, he will have a thing for her too. So you're stranded in space. What you gonna do? Do they still have a working holodeck? Let's go.
Yeah, but I was so impressed by that, by the performance that she was giving and everything that she was like saying beyond her words. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, she is so committed to that role beyond what you normally see with any role, really. I mean, she embodies that character in a way I don't think we've seen for a while in Star Trek. Well, because it's been 12 years since we've had new Star Trek, as far as the series. But she's definitely a standout for me. And I was waiting for her to get more screen time because I just remember her stories about being in the makeup chair and she had her Klingon dictionary and she would be running her lines and she wanted to nail it. And good Lord, she did.
Yes, she did. I agree. I mean, I really liked her, and I'm also liking Cole. What little we've seen of him so far, this episode really featured him quite a bit. I think it's really going to be interesting to see Vogue and Cole kind of go at it eventually. And I just feel like Laurel is going to be like right in the middle of that and maybe playing them both. I think she's the one who's going to be the ultimate power in this when we get to the end.
I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see.
Sounds
I just don't know what to think yet.
But who knows where it's going, really? And that's one of the things that's exciting. You don't quite know if that's what's going to happen or something else.
There's a lot of stuff I don't know. They keep surprising me with stuff. I mean, come on. I'm like, it's like my head keeps spinning like it's the Discovery about to go into Spore Drive.
But I love that. Don't you like being surprised? I don't want all of my Star Trek to be the same. That's like listening to the same song for the rest of your life. I mean, come on, let's have something different. And that's what we're getting.
I know. It really does make my head spin. It's like the next day I'm sitting in the car driving to work thinking like, oh, you know what? I want to go back and watch that. Oh, wait, to consider. And I'm just like, it's just playing with my head. It's so awesome. After 50 years of Star Trek that we can still have that kind of reaction to something new is incredible.
Especially in this day and age where everything seems to have been done. And I'm seeing things that I've never seen before. So
yeah. And Daniel in the chat says that the producers say that they know that the show diverges away from canon and it'll be revealed why and how it all connects to Prime Trek. So he's asking us, do we think that they really have a plan?
I absolutely do.
Mhm.
I absolutely think that they have a plan, because it would be folly to start any of this stuff that they've shown us so far without knowing how it's going to end. So I am fully confident that they have a plan and that they are executing it, and I'm ready and willing to see what they have next.
Yeah, there have been some interesting comments, and there was one from producer Akiva Goldsman recently where it may have been the article you were referencing, Bruce, where he was saying that they are aware that there are these apparent deviations from canon, and they're going to work over time to get it toward what you see in the original series 10 years later. I'm thinking, oh, they want like 10 seasons to do that? Okay.
I'm
but
down with it. Yeah,
but
let's do
but
10
yeah, I think
seasons.
but I think also, like, some fans have reacted that this is something that's really different. It can't possibly fit in. But we have seen so many times in Star Trek where something fits in that you didn't think it would. Like, even the Klingon look that you see in the motion picture and forward with the ridges, that wasn't explained for 35. No, not quite 35 years, 25 years, I think it was, until Enterprise season 4. That's a long time.
Mhm.
So, even if they get into some of these things and explain them within a couple of years, that's fine, because there's a lot of room to do that. We're looking at a certain corner of what's going on in that universe. Not everything is going to look or feel like that. And so that's fine for me. I'll just watch it unfold and see how they do it.
Well, it really does expand the Star Trek universe, because I think a lot of us fans go in knowing what we know from all these other series, and it's like, okay, this is Star Trek. This is this is what Klingons are. This is how Starfleet is, so on and so forth. And we may just be touching just a small part of that. And there's such an expansive. I mean, if anything, this series has done for me is just really expanded the thought of, wow, there could be other ships out there testing other technology we've never seen, doing weird looking designs that would be to us of the ship, and maybe even again different uniforms. I mean, there could just be all kinds of branches of Starfleet we're not even aware of.
Yeah, and
Agreed.
I think there's so many different possibilities for what's going on in the Federation, because I don't know if it's been established how big it is in the 23rd century, but in the 24th century, it's hundreds of planets across thousands of light years. There's so much that's going on in that wide expanse that we've never seen. So I think there's just limitless possibilities for where they can go, or what they can do, because it's such a large universe that they're really working in, that we've seen the tiny corner of.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this is kind of the way that I explain it. If aliens visited our planet and they based their opinion on only what they saw from our world leaders, how would that make us feel? To be judged by their actions instead of our own. So I feel like, yeah, go ahead and do something different, and I'm going to hang on and enjoy the ride, because there are infinite amounts of stories that can be told in this universe that's been created. And hey, bring them all to me. I'm game. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like, if aliens landed, in Europe and then landed in Asia, they'd say like, wait, these people look different
These
from
aren't
what we saw before.
humans.
This can't be canon.
Oh, no.
Exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly the kind of comparison I'm trying to make, and you just did it better.
Hopefully those aliens would come from a planet or a system where there were different culture. There'd have to be, right? So they wouldn't have the expectation either, I think, that they'd be getting something just from landing in one place. I would hope.
You would think that, but then, hopefully, I would hope that the human race would also feel the same way about the Star Trek universe. It's not all going to be the same. It's not all going to be all pretty and perfect and this vision of the future that it's a utopia, and we saw fractured areas of that perfect utopia in Deep Space Nine. And so I really honestly don't know why people are so upset about Discovery. I'm just kind of like, we've kind of been a little bit down the dark path. Now we're really going down into a darker area, but it's still Star Trek.
Yeah, and I mean, it's never been perfect. I mean, in
No.
TOS, there were lots of, admirals and people doing all kinds of stuff within the Federation that, the crew of the Enterprise had to combat or do something about. It's not a perfect future. I see it as a better future because it does seem better and something we can aspire towards. Then Discovery can still do that because they're still working within the framework of a better future. They're in a darker corner of it in a lot of ways, but they are still in that better future, and their goals, like their overall goals, even if we don't agree with their methods sometimes, are to support that better future. So it can totally work for me. It's not perfect, and it's never been perfect in Star Trek from the very beginning.
Well,
I mean, yeah, it sounds like my marriage. I mean, it's I love my wife, but it's not perfect. But anyway.
Oh my. Oh, Bruce's wife, I am so sorry.
Don't worry, she doesn't listen to this. If she did, she'd be perfect.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Wow.
I see. No, of course, I know. But yeah, I agree. Well, things aren't interesting because they're perfect. There's interest in the imperfections. Like I was making a scarf for my husband, and I'm really good at crocheting, but for whatever reason, the way I decided to do this, I kept screwing up and accidentally adding or decreasing stitches and not realizing it. And I told him, oh, I'm going to just have to start over because this is just going to be all uneven. And he says, that's okay. The imperfections make it beautiful.
Yeah,
that's true. That's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, and perfection isn't even possible.
No.
I say sometimes, like, if it's perfect, it doesn't exist. It's just not possible, but you can aspire towards certain ideals to do something better or to improve, to kind of always strive for that perfection that's impossible to achieve. But in doing that, knowing yourself better and, bettering your life and hopefully the life of those around you in the world, that's the best you can do. And in Star Trek, even in Discovery, they're part of this world where they're trying to examine things and try to do things better and to improve even within this difficult situation. So I think it very much conforms to what we see, in other parts of Star Trek. We're just seeing a different part of it.
If I said that's a perfect comment, does the comment exist anymore?
No, you just made an inaccurate statement. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, we would like to thank you for
anyway.
joining us on Metatrex today.
No, that was a good comment there.
Wow, I have to think about it. No, thank you.
So we have some people in the chats mentioning, again, we've heard the theory about Section 31, and maybe that's why the Enterprise and some others and us watching Star Trek hadn't heard of Discovery and these technologies, because this is actually Section 31. Are you coming around to thinking it's Section 31? Do you believe it's Section 31? I'm not sure that I do.
I don't necessarily think it has to be Section 31 to be classified. So,
well, the other thing is, just because we haven't heard about this before doesn't mean it's classified or it's secret. It just hasn't come up. Like in the course of the episodes and the things we've seen, it either hasn't happened yet, Enterprise or the Cage, or if it's after that, it's just not something that would ever come up for anyone to be like, you're visiting a planet. Hey, remember that spore drive that we used to have 100 years ago? I mean, like that's the way I think about it, because we're not seeing everything that's happening in all of these periods of time. It's a slice, it's an episode or a movie or whatever. So that we never hear about it doesn't bother me at all, because you're not seeing everything in Federation history. And I don't think it's part of Section 31. It's just a new technology. But related to that, one of the things that I found really interesting was in episode 3, Lorca seemed to be this dangerous guy who seemed like he was doing something bad. And then, you come toward the end of episode 3 and it's a new way to fly and it's not trying to weaponize things. And then in this episode, he was basically, just being a wartime captain. I didn't see him as a bad guy in this one. It gave like a different side to him. I don't know. What did you guys think of Lorca in this one?
I kind of saw him as like a cranky, disapproving dad for the most part, especially when he was running battle drills on the bridge. And then he's just like, okay, you're all dead, and he tells Saru to start it again, and they're like, we'll do better this time. It's like, well, you could hardly do worse. That's just it's very kind of parental to me.
Yeah. But I mean, we've seen captains be like that and be disappointed and want them to do better,
Absolutely.
even Picard or Cisco. So
I liked him better this time around. I would say
Yeah.
that episode 3 that we first met him in, I did feel like there's something a little dark or something off about him, and that still may be true. But in this case, he felt more like a captain who has an assignment that they have to go into battle and to test this technology to make some of this happen. And he's just very focused. He's got a mission. He's got to get the crew ready, and we need to accomplish what we're sent out here to do.
Mhm.
Well, and not only that, but he also knows the best way to motivate his crew in any particular situation. And in this case, what he did is broadcast ship-wide the last transmission from, what is it, Corvus 2? Is that the mining colony?
Corvan 2, I think.
Corvan
it is.
2?
Corvan 2.
I was close. So yeah, I almost had it. Almost. I wasn't looking at my notes. And so he plays that broadcast ship-wide, and it affects everyone.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and I was getting choked up, but then I'm a very emotional person. It doesn't take a lot for me to get choked up, because I got choked up when the tardigrade was in the reactor chamber and was hooked up to that machine and was obviously in pain, and so I was getting emotional from that. So that's how I operate. All of my senses are at warp 10 basically, and there is no off switch.
It's Spore 10.
Spore 10, sorry, Spore 10. That's a fun word, Spore 10. Spore 10.
It could be your Twitter handle now.
I'm gonna have to just keep changing it. It was gonna be Takuvma 12, now it's gonna be Spore 10, and people are gonna get confused, but that's okay. Keep them on their toes.
Is it just me, but when I hear them talking about spores, I think of Spock and This Side of Paradise getting shot by the spores.
I hadn't thought about that.
I hadn't really either.
But you know what? While I was watching this episode and seeing the tardigrade, I was thinking, if it was Spock there, would he be mind melding with this creature?
Absolutely.
Probably.
Absolutely be mind melding.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah, because I guess Burnham, even though she grew up on Vulcan, she's not Vulcan, so she couldn't necessarily mind meld.
No.
And I don't know if we've, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if we've seen anywhere in Star Trek that anyone can initiate a mind meld that isn't either Vulcan or have a Vulcan Katra within them.
Right.
But she does have a piece of Sarek's Katra.
True.
Good point.
But maybe
So
that's
maybe she
good
didn't-
for...
Well, maybe she sensed something because, she seemed very trusting when she went in, when she lowered the field and she was bringing the spores in.
Well, she is very observant and very curious, and I think she was just using the scientific method at that point, because she saw the way it reacted when the spore drive was powered up the first time, and she had already deduced that it was only just from its characteristics and looking like a giant water bear, that it was not a predator. And so she was testing her theory, and she was very confident in what that would turn out to be, and she was absolutely right.
Well, and I have to say that there's something interesting to me about Tilly, because she comes across very sweet and innocent, naive, and I'm a cadet and whatever, and I feel a little uncomfortable around people sometimes, whatever. But yet when she got on the Glen, she was all there for full force in the last episode. And then in this episode, when Burnham lowers the shield, Tilly just stands there in the room, knowing which has just happened to Landry. I mean, I would have been like, here, Burnham, here's the spores. I get what you're trying to do, but I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I would not be standing there.
No, and that's the great part, because she says, I heard that transmission, and I cannot help those people, but I can help you. And man, that girl, I just love her. I love her, and she surprises me in every episode with the things she does, the things she says, the way she says them, and I just think she's beautifully written, and I think Mary Wiseman just brings the character to life beautifully, and yay for redheads! Love redheads.
Because you're a natural redhead, aren't you?
I am a natural redhead. I know you can't tell now. That's a long story, but I was born a redhead.
Justin, are you a redhead?
Interesting that you ask, because when I think shortly after I was born, I had a little red hair that fell out and then got more dark brown hair. So for a couple days, I think, one of those weird things that happened. So I guess I could say I'm an honorary one, maybe.
Sure, absolutely. You just God decided to give you a soul, so he took the red hair and he gave you brown hair because apparently redheads don't have souls. Yeah, that joke never gets old.
Boy, I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure
Really?
you've heard it though. No.
It's just
Maybe
like,
I've been sheltered from those cruel things.
you are
But
lucky.
but no, I like when I first saw Tilly in the last episode, I was like, is this going to get, a little annoying? But I think there's a lot to her, and I like her more every time that I see her. And I think it's true. Like when she's given a task and needs to do something, she's competent. In that scene with Burnham, she's fearless about it. And she also takes the risk to steal those spores and take them to Burnham. So like in the personal interactions, there's this awkwardness or this difficulty, but when she has like a specific task to do and knows what she wants to do, she can just go and do it, which is really interesting, and that makes her more three-dimensional character. I'm liking her more.
Yeah, I can't wait to see more from her. And I think her aspiration of becoming a captain, absolutely think she can do that.
I do too. I think she's going to come out of the series as one of the most favorite characters from fans.
I agree. And even Stamets wasn't a jerk. Not that I really thought he was a jerk.
Well, it's interesting because
I don't think he's a jerk. He's just sarcastic, and he doesn't like being there.
Well, he's sarcastic, and he's looking at the captain like, you are screwed up. You're out here for battle, and I'm a scientist, and I'm not really all for this. And he's looking at Burnham like, and you're, I don't trust, like he's looking at everybody like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. But did you see how he changed with Burnham when he really found out that she knew what she was talking about?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. He listened to her, and he wasn't even angry at her for stealing the spores.
And what I like was that, he was listening to this, and you'd see his facial expression like change, like, Yeah. But he didn't even say anything. You could just tell from his expression that he's gaining the respect. And I think that they're going to work together a lot more on the scientific aspects of what happens on the show. I think she's gained his respect, where before he thought that she was this terrible mutineer who started this war that drafted him into this terrible thing. So she's starting to be redeemed in his eyes, which is really cool.
I think what we're going to see is all of a sudden the crew starts to really respect Burnham, and she has a great relationship with everyone except for Saru still. Like they'll always have this relationship where he still just doesn't trust her or doesn't think she should be where she is in her position.
No, I think that's going to change. Of course, I'm projecting ahead to something that's very hard to predict, but I think something's going to happen somewhere in the season that she does something that's important to Saru or saves his life in some way and actually gets some respect and friendship back. I think there's a longer arc there of them kind of coming closer. I don't think it's going to be that kind of cold relationship for the whole time.
I do agree with you that I think that they'll get closer. I just think maybe they'll get close. It'll take them longer because remember, they've served together for 7 years. And I think she'll quickly turn the rest of the crew around to her, and Saru just takes longer to get there. But, according to what I've heard, episode 8, I think it's episode 8 is a good Saru episode.
Yes.
Be ready.
Well, the impression that I get is they were never friends, ever, in that entire time that they served together. And granted, I've only read the first 2 chapters of the David Mack book, and I can't wait to finish it because it is great. But just in those first 2 chapters, I'm like, oh my goodness, that explains so much about Saru. I get it. I get it.
Yes.
And so, and how he completely overreacts when she asks him to come down to where she has the tardigrade, and she's talking to him, and she even says, I can see that your threat ganglia aren't active, so this is obviously not a predator. And he gets all kinds of bent out of shape, and
it feels like he's being used, and she was being nice to him just for the purpose of using him to test her theory. I can understand why he gets bent out of shape about it. He's being manipulated.
Understand that too, but I feel like she had to use the preface of, talking to him. Well, she didn't even tell him why she needed him. So it's not like she lured him with false pretenses, because she just told him that she needed him down there. And so he came. And then she chose to, explain to him that she felt she had treated him badly, which she did. She did. She really did. And he took that as a sign of manipulation, and I don't necessarily think that it was.
She admits that it's been necessary for her to be contrite. I thought that was her saying that, admitting to him that, she needed to do that in order to get him there and to test her theory. I don't know. It's a little uncertain for me, but that's how I took it.
Yeah, I definitely took it. She's playing him. She's using him.
Yeah, I didn't. So I guess we'll see. But I don't think she was using him in the way that he thought she was using him. Yes, she needed his help, but I don't think that she did it to be mean to him.
No,
and that's the way he took it.
Yes, I agree. I don't think she meant to be mean. I think she just did it because it was logical.
Yeah.
Oh.
She needed his help, and this is why she brought him down here. But, no offense. Hey, I just, why are you taking it so hardly, Saru? I mean, I like you, kind of.
Well, think about it this way, though. If she had contacted him and asked him, I need you to come down here to see if your threat ganglia go off, do you think he would have gone?
No, and it wouldn't have worked because he would be anticipating it. Like she needed him without
but you know what? Here's the thing that I think about after having rewatched it today. Did she need to do that? She pretty much knew that she was right, that this thing wasn't really a predator. And this was like her final confirmation, but I don't think it was necessary. She was like 95% of the way there. Did she need to do that to be 100% of the way there? I don't know if it was necessary.
I don't think if it was necessary for her, but I think it would have been necessary to convince others, because not everybody, almost nobody trusts Michael. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, so I think that she did that to back herself up in case anyone's just like, why should we listen to you?
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And she can say, well, Saru was down here and this is what we found out. Boom. So we've just got a few more minutes. So are there any final thoughts about this episode?
Well, I have something I wanted to talk about.
Yes. Go right ahead.
So Dr. Culber, played by Wilson Cruz. Yes. I loved seeing him in this episode, if only briefly, and can't wait to see him more and to see his relationship with Stamets that we've heard of. So I was excited about that, even though it was a short little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, me too. And also Admiral Cornwell, I liked her, that she wasn't a badmiral. So it was nice to see that in an admiral.
Yeah, I actually recognized that actress almost immediately. And unfortunately, the first thing I ever saw her in was Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And she was the cranky, I'm going to use the word cranky instead of the word I want to use, older sister of the guy that the main character was interested in. And she was just horrible in that movie. She was, I mean, she played the part beautifully, but I'm like, hey, it's that one chick. But yeah, no, I really like her. I've seen her in many, many things, and I was happy to see her on Discovery.
Awesome. And real quick, we have a tweet from Laura at 0O Laura00, who's asking about the rankings of command, science, and ops. They're gold, silver, and bronze. Is that in the same Earth tradition as first, second, and third? So is command first, science second, ops third? Is that what those colors mean, you think?
Oh, you mean if they're like Olympic medals or something?
Almost, yeah.
I hadn't thought about it that way. Because like
command makes sense.
Yeah, command, because what is it? Is gold for command, silver for science officers, etc., and maybe bronze for enlisted. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't think of the same kind of ranking with the gold, blue, red on the original series, but
yeah, I don't know.
That's true.
Gold,
I don't know.
But shouldn't there be like a platinum division for like the really, really important stuff, like the admirals?
Right.
Right.
Or the president of the Federation or something. I don't know. So again, okay. So final thoughts, last few minutes. Justin, what would you think of the episode as a whole?
Well, I love the episode as a whole. I thought that, things are starting to settle in. We're getting to know the crew more. We're getting to know the characters more. We're understanding what's happening with the tardigrade and how it can help out. I mean, in a certain way, it's setting things up. But for me, this felt like a really exciting episode. We get to see the ship in action and a lot of things moving the story along, and a lot of great stuff to think about. It was great to see Giorgio. I mean, I just loved so many of the aspects, probably except for Landry, who just made a really bad mistake. But other than that, I mean, I love it. I'm just looking forward to continuing to see where they go with things.
So I know that you were talking about saving this for the live show like I was. So what was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment. It may sound a little bit weird, but the opening I loved so much, where they had like the lightning and all of this stuff going on, and it turned out to be the synthesized uniform. And maybe it's weird to say that was like my favorite moment, but that surprised me so much. I was like, are they out in space? Is this a storm? What's going on? I just thought that was really creative, even though there were so many great moments with the ship and the spore drive and all the character moments that we've talked about. But that first one, I just love that they opened it with that. What about you?
Oh, well, okay, I'll go with what I haven't talked about yet. But overall, I loved the episode. Won't miss Landry. Sometimes I feel like they created her just for us to hate so that we would cheer when she died. I don't know. But I think it was exciting. We learned a lot. The characters were expanded, and I can't wait for more. My favorite, and even though this is completely telegraphed, and I knew it was coming, everyone knew it was coming. But when Discovery just appeared at Corvan 2 and just immediately destroyed 2 of the Klingon ships, I was like, yes! It was just that kind of a moment for me.
Yeah, that was a great moment. I would say I probably have a tie for my favorite moments. One is what we discussed earlier, is hearing Corvan 2 over the audio speakers and just seeing the crew, hearing that and feeling the emotion of it. And the other one was just Stamets and Burnham when they're watching the tardigrade and the spores. And just like I was saying earlier, just seeing Stamets like kind of turn around and you see that side of him where he actually seemed happy for once in the episodes. And it's like, I think when I first watched this episode, I didn't like it as much as I liked 3, because I'm really hoping to like this crew better, but then I rewatched it again and I'm starting to see, I saw it better the second time, of how the crew is starting to really come together. And I feel like that respect is coming to Burnham, and I want to see more of that over time, because I really want to like these characters, and every episode we'll get to learn more and more about them. And I'm really looking forward to that aspect of it.
Yes.
So, and real quick, I want to give a plug. Literary Treks, episode 206, we have author David Mack on talking about the Discovery novel, Desperate Hours. So if you read the novel, I really encourage you to listen to that episode. There's a lot of good insight in there. And if you're not planning to read the novel, but just want to know what the novel is about and some of the inside baseball stuff that came with that in the show, is definitely worth a listen. So check that out. It was released this past Sunday on October 8th. Yes, I got the date right this time.
Yay! And since I am reading the book, I'm saving that episode until I'm finished with the book.
Yes.
So
you're
I will
reading
listen
it to that. Yes. Wait.
Yes.
Don't. If you're reading the book, wait. Finish
yeah,
the book.
because you guys got into spoilers real fast on that one, I was noticing.
Yes, and we called that out too.
Like, oh wait, hold on. Oh,
Yes.
Brandi, didn't you have a shout out that you wanted to do?
I do have a shout out. I'm shouting out to my friend Simon Lindy DeLuca, who is in Montreal, Canada. We have befriended each other. So we're about the same age as well. And he is French speaking. So English is not his first language. And for that reason, I think he communicates very, very well for saying he doesn't know English very well. But he has been great to talk to about Star Trek in general and Star Trek Discovery and many, many things that we have had conversations about. So Simon, I know that you've been to the ER after cutting your finger tonight.
Ow.
So thumbs up to your sort of thumbs up that you sent me just a few minutes ago. So hope you get better soon.
Yes.
And he had to get it. Yeah, he had to get a tetanus shot. And those things are so painful. They hurt forever. So I'm so sorry, Simon, but you're awesome. Okay, so I got to do the stuff that we do at the end of.
Yes, I was
every
just going to
live
mention that. Why don't
edge.
you read it to Simon?
I'm so okay, Simon, listen carefully. All right. Be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. Live from the Edge airs on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern. You're watching us right now. And will be released as a podcast on Tuesday mornings. Our commentary will be available as Tracks from the Edge on Wednesday. We'll discuss your feedback on Postcards from the Edge on Thursday. And of course, you can catch full analysis on the Edge main show on Friday. And to wrap up the week, join us for Notes from the Edge on Saturday for links between Discovery and the broader franchise. If you have not listened to that, I really recommend it. It is really interesting. Chris does a great job. And so you'll find all of these in the main feed for The Edge and in the Trek FM master feed. And we would love to hear your thoughts on Discovery. The best place to do that is the Babel Conference, which is our listeners group on Facebook. And Amy Nelson will collect your feedback for Postcards from the Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at TrekFM or send us an email using the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and choose The Edge. And at this time, we'd love to thank our associate producers, who are Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Paleo, Lisa Slack, and Shoaib Mirza. And if you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an associate producer, visit patreon.com/TrekFM for all the details. I hope that makes up for how I butchered that the last show.
Oh my gosh, you did so great. I was just going to say, again, live, we can't edit, and it was perfect.
Thank you. I'm usually very good at reading stuff, just not last week.
Well, because you were getting sick and you didn't know it. So that's the excuse we're going to run with. And hey, anybody who's listening live, and you like Star Wars, go check out the new trailer. Just dropped a few minutes ago, but just wanted to throw that out there since I do a Star Wars podcast also. So Justin.
Yeah.
Yes. What, Brandi?
No, I was just going to say Star Wars and Star Trek better together. There was actually a panel about that at Salt Lake Comic-Con, which I ended up not being able to go to because I had a low blood sugar attack, and Larry Nemeczek was on the panel and everything, and I'm really sad I missed it.
Oh, wow. I would want to see that too.
It sounded so awesome, and I'm sure it was because Larry was there.
I don't really get to hear Larry talk about Star Wars, so that would have been interesting.
True.
All right. Well, then, Justin, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me elsewhere on Trek FM, co-hosting Earl Grey. That's our dedicated Next Generation podcast. I co-host that with Amy Nelson and Richard Marquez. We have a great time talking about Next Generation every week. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. And you can also find me hanging around the Babel Conference, which is our listeners group on Facebook.
Yay. Well, I definitely listened to you on Earl Grey, and it's been a pleasure knowing you, and you've been on Literary Treks, and I saw you in Vegas. It's been fun.
Yes, definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on. And Brandi, where can people find you?
Oh, you can always find me lurking in the Babel Conference. I say lurking because I don't always initiate posts, but I sometimes comment on them. People have tried to start arguments with me, and I don't argue, and I think that frustrates people. I'm just like, oh, well, we'll have to agree to disagree, because that's just the kind of person I am. But yeah, you can find me there. I'm on Twitter as Brandywine12. That's BRANDIWINE 12. And I also have a podcast that I do with my husband called the Dark Corner Podcast, which is on strangeanddeadly.com. And like the name of the website suggests, we tend to look at things from a bit of a darker perspective. And for some reason, our coverage of Salt Lake Comic-Con has been the most downloaded episode that we have ever done, and I have no idea why.
Congratulations, whatever the reason is, that's good.
I hope it's because I got new listeners from Trek FM. That would be lovely. But keep in mind, it is not for children. There is swearing.
You swear?
I swear so much.
So it's rated it's rated MA then.
Yep.
Like Discovery.
Yep. For mature audiences only.
Wow. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Admiral_Rex, where I'm not swearing. And you can find me talking Star Wars on the Star Wars Report at StarWarsReport.com with Riley Blanton and Mark Hurleman, where I'm not swearing. And you can find me here on the network on Trek FM on Literary Treks with Dan Gunther, where I'm not swearing unless we have an author on and we turn off the microphones and there is some swearing going on. And because we like to swear. No. And then you can, of course, find me in the Babel Conference lurking around just like Brandi does. And sometimes I post things. So there you go. So I have a new way to sign off if I can indulge in that.
Oh, please.
We're a live show, right?
Absolutely.
I can't do it.
Take two.
Live, long, and prosper.
Oh, nice. Live, long, and prosper. Bye, everybody.
That's awesome.
Bye.
Have a good night.